was shunned from this Virginia restaurant, another in a series of stories where Trump-connected officials or supporters treated in this vile fashion. He joins us now. Gov, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Good to be with you, Laura. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Maxine Waters, in my mind, should be censured by the U.S. Congress. A year after we had Steve Scalise shot at that congressional baseball game by Bernie Sanders volunteer, we're hearing her type of rhetoric, and it seems like it's ramping up across the country, not calming down, but ramping up.
It's totally out of hand. What Maxine Waters said was irresponsible for the member of Congress to be saying such things, inciting rioting and violence and attacks against public officials. I think it violates federal law to do that, but that'd be for maybe a cop to determine. But then you add to that what Peter Fonda said last week about Melania, about Kirsten Nielsen, and about my daughter, he had the audacity to suggest that people would go to their homes, kidnap their children. Now, when you start suggesting that stuff, Peter Fonda ought to be in jail right now. The fact that he isn't is, to me, a testament that we have two sets of rules in this country. One for people on the left who are given an excuse because, after all, they supposedly, I guess, have a right to say irrational, hateful, intolerant, bigoted things. And then you have another set of rules for people who are conservative, who can't even go to a restaurant and have a dinner with their families without being asked to leave. By the way, Laura, there's a part of that story that has not been told. You're going to be the first to hear it. Once Sarah and her family left, and of course Sarah was asked to please vacate, Sarah and her husband just went home. They had sort of had enough. But the rest of her family went across the street to a different restaurant. The owner of the Red Hen, because nobody's told this, then followed them across the street, called people, and organized a protest, yelling and screaming at them from outside the other restaurant and creating this scene. One of the members of Sarah's in-laws who were there, by the way, most of her in-laws, not her mother-in-law and father-in-law, but most of them are very liberal. And one of them walked out and said, look, I don't like Trump. I'm not a supporter. I'm a far considered liberal. But you guys are embarrassing me, and you're not helping the cause. It was ironic that, and he said, Sarah's not even here. You're yelling and screaming at somebody who's not here. This is what the left has been reduced to. It's really tragic, and it is dangerous, and that's what I think people need to recognize.
They want intimidation and demonization, and that's been from the very beginning. When Trump shocked the world and won that election, they went into overdrive, fanaticism, went ever more radical in their views. Now he's a Nazi, now he's a brown shirt, holding people who violate our laws in custody is now equivalent of internment camps. And now they're driving people out of public places, which is a violation of Sarah's and her family's civil rights, by the way. She has a civil rights action, an action against this particular restaurant. So the idea that they want debate, no, they're not interested in debate.